Emily had been sitting by the window for hours, staring at the quiet street, feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness because today, after over a year, her step-grandson Ryan was coming to visit, and she didn't know what to expect. The house felt empty, yet heavy with memories of his laughter and chatter from years ago, and when the doorbell finally rang, her heart leaped, a strange warmth spreading through her chest as she rushed to open it. And there he stood, taller, more confident, yet with the same shy smile that had always made her feel protective and fond, holding his backpack loosely, as if he was nervous too, and she felt a sudden rush of memories from the past, from his childhood, his awkward phases, his funny jokes, all flashing before her eyes in an instant. She invited him in, smiling despite the fluttering in her chest, and Ryan stepped inside, his eyes scanning the familiar living room, lingering on the family photos, the little things she had kept exactly the same. And then meeting her gaze, his expression soft, almost hesitant, and they began to talk at first about small things. His studies, his friends, the little stories from college, but gradually the conversation deepened, becoming more personal, more revealing, as if both of them were rediscovering each other after a long absence, and Emily noticed the way he laughed, the way his eyes lit up when he talked about things he cared about, and she found herself smiling in a way she hadn't for months, feeling a strange but comforting connection that warmed her heart. As they moved to the living room, sitting across from each other with cups of tea, Ryan seemed nervous, fidgeting slightly, yet he kept glancing at her with a mix of curiosity and something unspoken, and Emily, noticing the subtle tension, tried to brush it off, telling herself it was just that he had grown, he was becoming a man, and she was merely seeing the changes that time had brought. Yet there was a pull between them, quiet awareness of each other that neither had expected, and it was in that quiet moment as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over the room, that Ryan suddenly said, "Emily, can I tell you something?" And Emily's heart skipped, a mixture of worry and anticipation tightening her chest, because she sensed the words would matter, that they would carry weight, and when she nodded, urging him to speak, he hesitated, then continued, his voice soft, almost trembling. "It's just, I've missed this. I've missed you. I don't know if I can explain it, but being here feels different, like I'm seeing you in a way I didn't before." And Emily felt a shiver run down her spine, a strange combination of emotion, nostalgia, and something tender she couldn't quite name, and she responded gently, saying she had missed him too, that the house felt emptier without him, that it was strange how quickly time had passed and yet some things remained, and Ryan smiled faintly, relieved, and then they continued talking, moving seamlessly from past memories to present feelings, sharing stories that were funny, heartwarming, and occasionally bittersweet, each story drawing them closer, each laugh, each glance, each word layering a subtle intimacy that neither fully understood but both felt. Emily watched him as he shifted in his seat, leaning slightly forward, eyes bright, voice earnest, and she felt a flutter in her chest when his hand brushed hers accidentally while reaching for the sugar. A fleeting touch, yet charged with a warmth that made her pulse quicken, and she looked away for a moment, pretending to sip her tea, telling herself it was nothing, just a simple brush of hands, yet the air between them seemed to hum with a gentle energy, a quiet tension that neither dared to name aloud. As the evening light faded into twilight, Ryan moved around the room, helping tidy up, placing things back in their spots, and Emily observed him, noticing subtle details she had never paid attention to before, the way he moved, the way he paused, the way his eyes searched hers for acknowledgement or approval, and she felt a bittersweet mixture of pride and longing, realizing that the boy she had watched grow was now a man standing before her, carrying emotions she hadn't expected to feel. They shared stories about their favorite moments from the past, old jokes, silly pranks, and gentle teasing, and each laugh, each smile, each glance made the house feel alive again, vibrant with connection and warmth. And yet there was an underlying current, a soft, unspoken understanding, that this visit was more than just a casual meeting. It was a bridge between years of separation, a rediscovery of each other, a rekindling of affection in a way that was profound yet delicate, and Emily felt her heart open in ways she hadn't realized she could, appreciating the beauty of the moment, the rare feeling of being understood, seen, and cherished. Just as she was about to remark on how grown he had become, Ryan stopped near the doorway, looked at her with that same shy, intense gaze, and whispered almost nervously, "Emily, this visit is different. I didn't expect it to feel like this." And Emily's breath caught, her mind racing, because she understood exactly what he meant, the air between them thick with unspoken emotions, and before either could speak again, A soft knock at the door startled them both, and Emily's heart skipped, unsure who it could be. Yet she felt a strange reluctance for the moment to end, the energy in the room unresolved, a quiet anticipation lingering, because this simple visit had already become something far more meaningful, far more emotional than either of them had anticipated. And as she moved toward the door, glancing back at Ryan, she realized that tonight would mark a turning point, a moment suspended in time, where feelings were acknowledged, bonds renewed, and the unexpected warmth of presence had created a memory neither of them would ever forget, leaving Emily both excited and anxious for what the rest of the evening, and the days to come, might bring. As Ryan's soft voice behind her murmured again, "Emily, there's more I want to tell you," and the words hung in the air like a promise, a gentle hook pulling her forward into the unknown, into the rest of their story that was just beginning. After the soft knock at the door, Emily turned back to Ryan, her heart still fluttering from the tension and warmth that had built between them since his arrival, and she saw in his eyes a mixture of nervousness and vulnerability, as if he carried 1,000 thoughts he didn't know how to speak. Yet he took a deep breath and began to share what had been on his mind for months, starting quietly, almost hesitantly, with stories of his loneliness at college, how he often missed home, missed the comfort of familiar walls, and missed the simple presence of someone who understood him without explanation. And Emily listened intently, feeling a wave of empathy and nostalgia wash over her, recognizing the same longing she herself had felt in the quiet days without him. And as Ryan spoke, she noticed how his voice softened when he mentioned memories of them together, the small adventures, the laughter, the late-night talks when he was younger, and it struck her that time had passed but their bond had not faded. It had simply been waiting for a moment like this to resurface, and she responded gently, sharing her own quiet moments of missing him, the emptiness she had felt in the absence of his laughter, and how she had often thought about the boy he had been and wondered about the man he was becoming. And as they exchanged these thoughts, the energy in the room shifted subtly, becoming more intimate, not in any improper way, but in the depth of understanding and emotional closeness, and Emily felt a flutter in her chest when Ryan leaned slightly forward, eyes shining, hands resting on his knees, as he spoke about the complicated feelings he sometimes experienced, the mix of admiration, affection, and a growing awareness of emotions that he didn't fully understand. And Emily, though surprised, felt a warmth she couldn't ignore, recognizing that these were the honest, heartfelt confessions of someone who trusted her enough to share them, and she kept her voice calm and soothing, encouraging him to continue, making sure he felt safe and heard, because she understood how important it was to have a place to share such feelings. And Ryan, encouraged by her patience, began to open up even more, talking about his hopes, his fears, and the moments when he had felt uncertain about life and relationships. And Emily found herself leaning closer, genuinely engaged, feeling a rare combination of pride, affection, and gentle longing, as she realized that he was growing into a man who sought connection and honesty, someone who valued the bond they shared beyond mere family ties. And as he spoke, she noticed how naturally their hands brushed again when he reached for the tea, and though fleeting, the touch sent a subtle warmth through her, a recognition of the human need for closeness. And it was in these moments that the emotional intensity built, not as a romance in a traditional sense, but as a deep, heartfelt connection, a meeting of souls that had been separated by time and circumstance but were now finding each other again. And Ryan's voice, steady yet tinged with emotion, spoke of admiration for her strength, her wisdom, and her unwavering kindness. And Emily, touched by his words, felt her heart swell, realizing that his presence had rekindled something she hadn't known she had missed, a sense of being understood and valued in ways that transcended ordinary conversation. And as they continued, Ryan admitted that he often felt unsure how to express these emotions, that sometimes he feared being misunderstood or judged, and Emily reassured him gently, telling him that honesty and openness were the bravest acts, that sharing feelings, even complicated ones, was a sign of strength. And Ryan nodded, visibly relaxing, the tension in his shoulders easing, and in that moment, Emily felt a profound sense of connection, a recognition that their hearts were aligned in a subtle but meaningful way, bound by trust, affection, and the quiet intensity of rediscovered intimacy. And as they shared a laugh over a funny childhood memory, the room seemed lighter, yet charged with the undercurrent of emotions that neither had expected. And Emily noticed how Ryan's gaze lingered on her, not inappropriately, but with admiration, curiosity, and something tender that made her pulse quicken. and she realized that the line between familiarity and affection was delicate, and it required care, attention, and respect, which she was determined to maintain. And Ryan, sensing the shift, spoke softly about his appreciation for her presence, for the comfort of being home, and for the rare moments when someone truly listens. And Emily smiled, feeling a warmth that spread from her chest to her fingertips, knowing that this connection, this moment, was unique, fleeting, and precious. And yet it was also the beginning of a deeper understanding between them, one that could grow naturally without haste or pressure. And as the evening deepened, the room filled with the soft glow of the lamp and the fading light outside, Ryan's confessions became more personal, touching on his dreams, regrets, and the ways he struggled to navigate the challenges of growing up and finding his place in the world. And Emily responded with gentle encouragement, offering wisdom drawn from experience, yet always careful to maintain the boundaries that kept their relationship safe and respectful. And Ryan listened intently, absorbing her words, feeling comforted, inspired, and understood. And Emily, in turn, felt her own heart lighten, as though sharing these moments had lifted a weight she hadn't realized she carried. And when a small silence fell between them, it was not uncomfortable, but rich with unspoken acknowledgement, the kind of silence that only comes from true connection. And as Ryan shifted slightly closer, he spoke again, voice low, almost a whisper, about how much he valued her guidance, her presence, and how rare it was to find someone who truly understood. And Emily's breath caught, her mind racing, aware of the subtle tension, the energy between them that was emotional, heartfelt, and intense without crossing any line. And she reminded herself quietly that boundaries were necessary, that the affection they felt was powerful and meaningful even without romantic action. And Ryan, sensing her calm, felt reassured, the weight of unspoken feelings easing slightly, and they continued to talk late into the evening, moving from serious reflections to light-hearted jokes, each story weaving them closer, each laugh reinforcing trust and connection. And Emily found herself laughing freely, her heart buoyant with warmth, while Ryan's eyes sparkled with a mix of gratitude, admiration, and that indescribable affection that sometimes grows quietly over years of closeness. And when Ryan finally glanced at the clock, realizing how late it had become, he hesitated to leave, as though part of him wanted to prolong this time, to stay in the warmth of understanding and shared emotion. And Emily, noticing his hesitation, felt the same pull, a bittersweet mix of longing and acceptance, knowing that some moments are meant to be cherished, not rushed. And she smiled softly, telling him it was okay to stay a little longer if he wanted. And Ryan's face brightened, the relief in his eyes palpable, and as he leaned back, stretching slightly, he said quietly, "Emily, I didn't expect this visit to feel like it has, but I'm glad it did." And Emily's heart swelled, understanding exactly what he meant, that their connection had deepened, that trust had been built, that feelings had been acknowledged without pressure. And as the night drew on, Ryan finally prepared to leave for the evening, their conversation lingering in the air, leaving behind a sense of intimacy, emotional fulfillment, and anticipation for what the rest of his visit might bring. And as he hugged her goodbye, a gentle, lingering embrace filled with care and warmth, Emily felt a quiet thrill, a recognition that this relationship, complicated but meaningful, had grown into something rare, tender, and unforgettable. And when she watched him walk down the porch steps, the glow from the lamp casting long shadows behind him, she whispered softly to herself, "Some connections are timeless and some feelings are meant to be felt, not rushed." Knowing that tonight had changed something in both of their hearts, opening the door to a deeper, emotionally rich journey together, one that would continue to unfold naturally, beautifully, and safely in the days to come. The next morning, Emily woke to the soft golden light spilling through the curtains, the quiet house feeling warmer somehow, filled with the memory of last night's conversations and laughter. And she found herself thinking of Ryan, wondering if he felt the same mix of emotions, longing and gentle excitement that she did. And before long, the sound of footsteps and the faint call of her name drew her toward the front door, where Ryan stood once again, a small shy smile on his face, holding a bag of groceries he had picked up on the way. And Emily's heart lifted at the sight, feeling an unexpected rush of happiness at his presence, as though the room itself recognized the bond that had begun to deepen between them. And they moved together into the kitchen, exchanging jokes and teasing lightly as they unpacked the groceries, each movement filled with subtle touches, brief hand brushes, and lingering glances, all innocent yet charged with a quiet awareness neither had spoken aloud. And as they worked, Ryan began to talk about his plans for the day, the little errands he needed to run, but Emily noticed how his attention continually drifted toward her, how he seemed eager for her approval, for her smile, and she found herself laughing softly, feeling the warmth of connection that had only grown since his arrival. And then, as they settled into the living room with cups of coffee, Ryan grew more contemplative, speaking about his experiences at college, the challenges he faced, and the moments when he had felt isolated, and Emily listened with patience and empathy, realizing that the trust he placed in her was rare and precious. And as he continued, he admitted how much he valued her presence, how her advice, her understanding, and her calm had always been a source of comfort. And Emily felt a swell of pride and affection, recognizing that their relationship had shifted, evolving into something more emotionally significant, a deep bond that required care and respect. And as the morning wore on, they moved into quieter moments, speaking softly about memories, hopes, and small regrets, sharing glimpses of their inner worlds. And Emily felt a tenderness in her chest, a gentle recognition of the unique position they held in each other's lives, and she marveled at how naturally the conversation flowed, how easily laughter could mix with vulnerability, and how the simple act of listening became an act of love and trust. And Ryan, noticing the time, paused, then said quietly, "Emily, I don't want this day to end." And she smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her that was both comforting and exhilarating, knowing that he meant the depth of his words. And she reassured him softly that they still had time, that moments like these were to be cherished, savored, not rushed. And as the afternoon approached, they decided to take a walk around the nearby park, the crisp air brushing against their cheeks, the sunlight dancing through the trees, creating a golden canopy that made the world feel both intimate and expansive. And as they walked, Ryan spoke more openly about his feelings, about the uncertainty he sometimes felt about growing up, about his dreams and fears, and Emily responded with gentle guidance, sharing her wisdom in a way that encouraged rather than dictated. And she noticed how attentively he listened, how his eyes reflected both admiration and a quiet longing. And though nothing inappropriate occurred, the depth of emotion between them was undeniable, a strong current of care, affection, and understanding that drew them closer in spirit. And Emily felt a subtle thrill in the connection, aware of the emotional intimacy that had blossomed, a rare and precious bond that transcended ordinary family ties. And as they returned home, Ryan paused at the doorstep, turning to her with a reflective expression, and said softly, "Emily, being here talking to you, it reminds me of who I am, what I care about, and how much I've missed this." And Emily, touched by the sincerity, reached out and lightly touched his arm in a gesture of warmth and reassurance, and he smiled, a mix of relief, affection, and quiet joy evident in his expression. And they went inside, where they spent the remainder of the afternoon cooking together, sharing meals, and talking about small daily things. Yet every word, every glance, every shared laugh deepened their connection. And Emily realized that Ryan's presence was transforming the atmosphere of the house, filling it with a vibrancy and energy that had been missing. And as the sun began to set, casting soft amber light through the windows, Ryan became thoughtful again, reflecting on his experiences, on the people he had met, and the lessons he had learned. And Emily listened, offering support, encouragement, and the occasional gentle tease that made him laugh. And with each exchange, she felt the threads of trust, care, and emotional intimacy weave tighter, creating a bond that was subtle yet powerful. And Ryan, sensing the end of the day approaching, became quiet for a moment, then confessed, "Emily, I feel like I can tell you anything and you'll understand. That feeling is rare. I don't think I've ever felt it before." And Emily's heart swelled, a gentle warmth spreading through her chest, knowing that she had created a safe space for him, that their connection was meaningful, nurturing, and heartfelt. And as evening approached, they settled in the living room with blankets and soft music, the air filled with comfort, laughter, and shared glances that conveyed more than words ever could. And Emily noticed how Ryan's eyes lingered on her with appreciation and gentle affection, how his presence seemed to radiate care, thoughtfulness, and a desire for closeness without crossing boundaries. And she felt a flutter, not from impropriety, but from the recognition that some relationships are rare, complex, and beautifully emotional. And as night fell, Ryan prepared to leave for the evening, hesitating at the doorway, reluctant to end the day. And Emily reassured him with a soft smile that he was welcome anytime, that their time together was precious and worth cherishing. And as they embraced briefly, a warm, comforting hug filled with care, mutual respect, and the quiet thrill of emotional intimacy, She felt the full weight of their bond, the significance of shared moments, the gentle thrill of feelings acknowledged and understood without pressure or expectation. And when Ryan finally stepped outside, Emily watched him disappear down the path, the glow from the porch lamp casting shadows that danced along the walls, and she whispered softly to herself, "Some connections are rare, and some feelings are meant to be felt deeply, not rushed." And as she closed the door, she felt a quiet satisfaction, a sense of hope and anticipation for the days to come, knowing that their bond had grown stronger, that trust, affection, and emotional intimacy had been nurtured, and that this visit, unexpected and heartfelt, had created memories and emotions that would remain long after the sun had set, leaving both of them changed, aware of a connection that was profound, tender, and safe. And Emily knew that in this quiet, simple, and beautifully emotional way, their relationship had entered a new chapter, one of understanding, warmth, and the delicate thrill of rediscovery, carrying with it the promise of many more shared moments, heartfelt conversations, and the subtle, enduring magic of a connection that touched both hearts in ways neither could forget, a bond that was gentle, respectful, emotionally rich, and entirely their own, unfolding naturally, beautifully, and safely in the days and years to come.